we were going through some draft stuff, some draft prep, and I stumbled across the fix for the Sacramento Kings. I've fixed them, James.
Oh,
I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is big time. I want everybody to, congratulations to everybody on what's going to be an incredible season for the Kings. Should they follow my lead on this? And I think that the Kings, who have their draft pick this year by way of not making the playoffs, they have the number 13 overall pick. And there's a player, as we peruse various draft boards and mock drafts, this particular one was Kevin O'Connor at the Ringer, and Kevin O'Conlin, whatever it is. We're perusing his mock draft, and I was just going through, and there were, it's roughly the same top 15 guys in a little bit different order as the other ones you're going to see.
Of course.
Then I went and moseyed on down, and I found the perfect player for the Kings. And I think number 23 to the Bucks. He was a freshman at Wake Forest in the 2022-2023 season, and then spent his second season out of high school in the NBL. That's the Australian Professional League. His name is Bobi Klintman, and he's going to save the Kings.
This is it.
This is the guy. He's not an amazing athlete. Not like he's not, you don't watch him and go, oh my God, electric. But he's functionally athletic. He can jump and finish at the rim. He can pass a little bit. He can play some defense. He's like 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. He looks enormous on the court.
Yeah, he looks like a big guy.
And he has had now, he's 2 seasons out of high school, 21 years old. He has had in the NBL a full like professional season of developing his body and his strength. He can shoot it a little bit from outside. And I think the maximized version of Bobi Klintman is one where he is like a switchable, rangy defender in that perfect shot blocking 4 alongside Domantas Sabonis. And it may take a couple of seasons, but I think it can contribute in year 1, few minutes here and there. And then by year 2 or 3, I think you're really cooking with gas. And Bobi Klintman is the answer for the Sacramento Kings. Thank you.
Kyle he's making one of the classic blunders.
I'm sorry?
You're making this is one of the classic
trying
blunders.
to win championships. Yeah, no doubt.
No
doubt.
You are giving Sacramento Kings fans someone to focus their attention on.
Yeah.
And now he will be a guy that everyone is focusing their attention on. He will be forever the guy that the Kings missed out on.
No, because they're going to draft him.
Okay. I think that there is a possibility of the Kings drafting in the first round of the 2024 NBA draft, but I don't know that I believe that they'll be drafting it at number 13.
Okay.
So that might actually play perfectly into your Bobi Klintman plan.
Yeah. Explain how this makes even more sense. You had something laid out for me.
Yeah. So basically, because the Kings have their 2025 and 26 picks sort of tied up, right? Because of the Kevin Huerter trade.
Yeah.
If they were to trade, say, back in this draft and then potentially pick up another future first from somebody, that would make a lot of sense. So the Knicks are sitting at, what do we say, 24 and 25? And then the Knicks have like 3 or 4 extra first-round picks next season. If the Kings were to trade with the Knicks, allow the Knicks to move up to 13, they move back to 24 or 25, and they pick up an additional a 2025 first-round pick, which, again, they have a variety. They have their own, which is probably where the Kings would want, but they also have the potential for Milwaukee's. They have the potential for it's actually some good picks. It kind of strange what they have. They possibly have Washington's first round pick, which you're not going to be able to get in this scenario. But also Detroit's, which you're probably not going to get. So, but what I would do if I were the Kings, and if I wasn't secure with what I'm doing with the 13th pick, but I want to go get access to those other picks that I may or may not give up for the Kevin Huerter trade, I would actually go pick up another pick. Because if you have a 2025, that guarantees that so you could actually trade a pick. And it wouldn't tie up all of your picks. If you had a 2026, it might even be better because the Stepien rule. It would avoid the issue of trading 2 years in a row. As long as you have a first round pick, you can. It doesn't matter if it's yours or someone else's.
It's not the act of trading; it's the act of vacating the first round.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Exactly. So I don't know. I think that moving down in this draft, like again, I'm looking at the 10 through 20, and I like 10 through 20, even 10 through 25. I think that there are some players there, raw talent, like even what you're talking about with Klintman, like raw, like reminds me a little bit of like Zeke Najee from Denver,
Yeah.
who went right around this area in the draft. But what you're hoping is that you find a talent that develops that, again, he has potential to be a 3-point shooter. Those are some of the things that you're looking at him, the feel for the game, the shot blocking ability, all that stuff. Can you find a 3-and-D 4/5?
Yeah.
And that would really help the Kings. It's something that they need. They need a long, athletic guy who can block shots at the 4 or the 5.
And this is let me back up on the Bobi Klintman thing briefly. The like leaning in like he's God's gift to basketball is part of the bit.
Yeah.
And reality says finding a shot blocking 3-point shooting 4 is not super easy.
No.
If there was a player that was a surefire starting 4 who was going to block shots and shoot threes, he'd be going way earlier than the mid to late 20s.
Yes.
That's just so, but it's about that potential and that growth. And I think there are ways he could contribute in year 1 for sure, which I think is very important. But I don't think he's super far off if he develops the right way, which Kings player development has been pretty strong so far over the last couple of years. You'd feel good about that.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe the lateral quickness he needs to improve on doesn't get there. Maybe the 3-point shot never really comes around and his offensive game is just super limited. That's on the table, no doubt. But when you're picking 13th in this year's draft in particular, or trading down, like that risk, the farther down you go in the draft, the higher that risk kind of goes. So I don't, not to say he is a perfect player, but when we start looking at all these guys who are Dalton Connect and Jacoby Walter and who's the Ron Holland, like when you start looking at all those guys, there's red flags and issues in terms of like on court shortcomings.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, totally.
And I think when you're projecting out of like, man, who would be the perfect if they develop into that like peak version of what they could be, I think I love the idea of Bobi Klintman, and like I said, I think he could contribute in year 1 as well.
Yeah, I would also point out too, like this draft is very strange, and we're gonna learn a lot as we're moving along, and we're getting closer and closer to draft day. But like we're just hearing now, according to Jonathan Gavoni, Draft Express / ESPN, Nikola Topic, who is considered like somewhere in the top 10. Some people have him all the way up to number 4, but between 4 and like 8, he has a partially torn ACL. And he tore it in January. He has not had surgery. They're going to bring him overseas and have U.S. doctors look at his knee and kind of figure out what it is they need to do. But they just did that at the combine in Italy. And so now we're looking at a player who maybe he falls to 13. Maybe a player that you could not have got your hands on before. And maybe if the Kings were to stay at 13 and they're looking at this as not a player that can help them today, but a player that can help them maybe next year and the year after, maybe you take a gamble on a 6'7", 2-3 that has all kinds of skill, but has a knee injury and will probably miss a good portion of the season.
And that's where there's some flexibility in what I've had to say about this year's draft.
Yeah.
And because I'm of the mind like your window's now, and we'll talk about that. But if there's a player who falls who you think, man, this guy can really, really play. We didn't think there was any chance we'd draft him. Yeah, he might not get to play a ton this year, but we think he's pretty close to ready once he does get on the court. You're gonna have him. You may not have him a lot this year, but you're gonna have him for all of next offseason to get him up to speed. And if you think that guy can contribute right away, then I think you can. It's tough because the urgency for me is now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if this is a guy who you had as the third or fourth best player in this draft, all of a sudden he falls to you at 13. It's like, man, that's really hard to pass up, because if he goes 14 and steps in next year and is the rookie of the year after not playing this year, you're going, man, you could have had that guy. And instead we have Dalton Connect, who can't get on the floor for more than 6 minutes a night.
Oh yeah.
That's,
I mean, it's intriguing. Like, that's the draft is such a crapshoot, but the Kings are at a point where the value to them of the 13th pick is more likely as a trade asset than it is as a player. And that's tough, because when you're looking at number 13, I mean, you might be able to find a player with a high floor but a lower ceiling at number 13 that you can plug in and play right now, that has one or two definable skills. Like Dalton Connect, great shooter. We know he's going to walk in the league. He's going to hit 3-point shots, right? He's also gritty, play some defense and all that stuff. But like, the one thing that is he's going to be able to shoot the three ball. But are you limiting yourself long term by continuously doing this, where you only draft players that are mature, that are 22, 23, and so your player age as a team stays around, the 23 to 26, 27, and as your stars start to get older, you're still bringing in these players that might work. But I think there is also something to taking a flyer. We talked about this yesterday, the Gerald Wallace pick by Jeff Petrie years ago. There's something to taking a flyer on somebody like a what's his name, Ron Holland. Yeah, like Ron Holland has all kinds of potential, but he's probably 2 years away.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you deal with it, but I also look at that pick and go, probably has more value to trade that for a 25, 26-year-old real player in the NBA with marketable skills that's good at what he does, and you already know what you're getting.
Yeah, and if you're the Kings at this point, certainty matters more than that draft pick.
Yeah,
At least to me, at least the potential of that draft pick. So